swinging a drive, right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Jean.
All right, Crawly, it's season 4, episode 70, Bye Imai. And you're listening to the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, most importantly, review the podcast. Follow us on the socials. You can check me out at Mullion Haw on X.
And you can follow me at Crawly's Cubs on X, Blue Sky, TikTok, Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. And you can email us at crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com.
All right, Crawly, before we get to the news, since we've been off the air a little bit before Christmas, a little update on how Cubs caroling went. I did see some photos and videos on your social media.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. Just another trip over at, this is at Ball Hawk Corner. You could see the great crowd that we had there. One of the best parts about it all is always the doing it at Chris Kindle Market. So that's us singing in front of the tree. And so that to me is always just a lot of fun. Now, the guy who writes all these songs, I'll get this picture right up here. This is us at Nisei Lounge. That's Danny right here in the pink pants. Together all the songs in a hymnal so everybody can read it, right? So turn to page 6, this song, turn to page 3. I'm talking to Danny, and Danny's like me, very baseball centric. And I said to him, look, this is Bears Packer on a Saturday night. I'm like, this is going to be a rough crowd. I say our last song has to be Bear Down, regardless of the fact that we're all in Cubs gear. Let's just do Bear Down for the final song. And he's like, well, I don't know it. I'm like, I'll put it in the hymnal. No big deal. I put it in the hymnal. It just absolutely killed. Everybody loved it. I think it was a lot of fun. So I appreciate everybody that came out. There's nothing like walking around Wrigleyville in the wintertime. I got to say, Dustin, though, I don't know if it has anything to do with the Northwestern football games, but disappointed again that they didn't have the whole full setup like on the field and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I don't know if it was.
That was fun. I took my kids to that, and that was a great experience.
Yeah, this year was the smaller version. The ice skating was outside of Wrigley in Gallagher Way, and there was some stands and stuff, but it was nothing like the year before where they just had all sorts of games and all that stuff. So it was fun, but I had a lot of fun.
I bet you're right, though. I bet it had to do with the Northwestern games.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, and not only that, but my they're also doing some construction. So my season ticket seats are coming out. And I'm getting them shipped here to the Cubs cave.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the Cubs give you an opportunity to purchase your tickets. So I'm doing that. So
they're putting in some new plastic seats, basically.
Yeah, they've been doing them by section, and so my section's the last section in the upper deck, left field side. So in about a month or two, it'll be right behind me. Yeah, I'm excited.
Sweet. How many would you get? A pair?
Yeah, you're only allowed to get, I think, 2 seats. And I looked out because I moved one section closer, but the person who had my old seats, they didn't want to buy them. So I talked to the Cubs. I'm like, hey, if the guy doesn't want to buy them, I'll take them. I'd rather have those than my new ones because those are the ones I sat the longest time in. Those are the ones I went to the World Series games in and stuff like that. So to me, they kind of have a lot of sentimental value. So they're supposed to be shipping out late February, early March. So the countdown's on for that. Got our friend Steve. Sure, he's online. And if anyone else wants to comment, be welcome to. But Steve's over in Arizona, probably getting ready for spring training. Dustin, hard to believe we're about a month away.
Yeah, very nice.
Month away from pitchers and catchers. So, and if you remember last year players started kind of coming out there. Some of the young prospects and stuff started coming out prior to CubsCon right around this time. Oh, my friend Brian is online. Brian is the guy that he developed the script with Ed Hardig for the Chicago Cubs tour. If you've ever done the tour, even if you know everything about Wrigley or you think you do, I would recommend taking the tour.
Absolutely. I agree. It's
such a good time.
Cool. Always suggested when somebody says, what should I do? Take the tour. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's been a couple of weeks since we talked, and unfortunately, we didn't have to break in with any exciting news. We were ready.
Yeah, we had
ready
said we would make ourselves available, but yeah, there were a couple of they did add some bullpen pieces, and I'm not disappointed in those pieces, but there was no wow moments, nothing sexy or anything like that.
No. Last time we talked, though, if you remember, the Tatsuya Imai rumors were just really percolating everywhere, right? They were bubbling up last time we talked. And this was right before. This is Francis Romero, MLB Insider. 5 teams showing interest in Imai. The Yankees and the Cubs are expected to be finalists. And Dustin, once again, our hearts are broken as he chooses to go to the Houston Astros. So, when you
kind
think
of odd, right? Kind of an odd choice, the Astros. And the money wasn't crazy, right?
No, it wasn't crazy. We'll talk a little bit about that later. The Japanese market has been kind of weird. All of these guys from Japan this year are signing for contracts much less than what was expected. But Imai signed a 3-year, $54 million deal with opt-outs after every year, after the first year, after the second year, and then obviously third year doesn't really matter. But he's going to get $18 million a year plus $1 million performance bonuses if he hits 80, 90, and 100 innings. And those kick in for the entirety of the contract, even if he only does it once. Wow. So he can earn $3 million in incentives. So if if his base salary becomes $21 million in 27 and 28. So even though it's like a $54 million deal, like what's the chance he doesn't get 80, 90 or 100 innings? I mean, that's a problem if you don't, right?
That's a problem.
So it's more looking like a 3-year, $63 million contract.
Yeah, I do like that he's kind of betting on himself a little bit with those incentives, right? I mean, he could have been like, I'm only doing this if I get X, and it's a little bit of I got to stay healthy, I got to prove that I can do it at this level.
Yeah, and it said he had longer term deals with lower AAVs on the table, but he wants the big contract, and so obviously, trust me, $60 million is nothing to sneeze at. But I think he wants a little more longevity. He wants more years, and so, I don't know what happened. Romero said Dodgers and Cubs, but Imai said he didn't want any other Japanese players on the team. There's none that I know of in Houston, and so maybe that
isn't that kind of weird though? Like, why is that?
If
anything, you would think they would want another Japanese player on their team for companionship, if you will. Like, especially if English, right? If the culture and the language is a little bit of a barrier, that he would have somebody to hang out with, if you will.
I think it depends on the person. I think if you would have done it with Seiya Suzuki, I think that was a lot harder. But I think like Shota would have been fine being by himself. I mean, you're going to have a translator. He's not going to be by himself.
No. I obviously he's going to have that. I'm talking about, but there's a difference between a translator and a teammate, right? I mean,
yeah, I think it just really has to do with the personality of the guy. And like, I think Shota is a much more gregarious, outgoing personality, and Seiya is much more quiet, reserved. And I'm sure he likes having another Japanese player. I'm sure if there was another Japanese player, not Shota Imanaga would still be Shota Imanaga, right?
Right. I mean, listen, maybe you're right. I would think, knowing myself, that if I was, let's put it this way, if I was an American going to a Japanese baseball team, I would be looking for a team that had another American on it, if that makes sense. I wouldn't necessarily want to go to a team that was all Japanese ball players.
Right. I understand that completely. Like I said, different strokes for different folks. But Dustin, what really burns Cub fans is the constant consolation tweets, right? Yankees and Mets. This is John Heyman. He joins you every week, usually at the Mully and Haw show, and MLB Odyssey Insider, all that fun stuff. Yankees and Mets were not seriously involved in Imai talks. Cubs were among teams in the mix before Astros won the bidding. So it's this constant, Dustin, consolation prize.
The bridesmaid. They're the bride. They're constantly the bridesmaid, right? They're the maid of honor. They're never the bride.
Right. So you're sitting here, and it's Dylan Cease, Michael King, Robert Suarez, with the reliever, the closer. We've gone through this at least 3 times already, just this offseason. I'm not even going backwards. So, you wonder why the Cubs wouldn't have matched or gone even a little bit further on an offer for Imai, or like we talked about, maybe it really did have something about, just kind of being on his own. Do you think Shota's contract, because if you take a look at the average annual value of that contract that we just talked about, Shota's going to be getting 22 million and Imai's going to be getting 21.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say Shota doesn't take the qualifying offer. Are the Cubs willing to put more in to try to get Imai?
Yeah, potentially, right? I mean, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know, but Dustin,
but they rolled it. Listen, they rolled the dice on that one, right? They decided they were going to take a run at this with or getting the draft pick if they were to let if Shota was to walk.
Yeah, I just
they've got to believe that they think they can fix him.
I hope so. But I've noticed, Dustin, on social media especially, there are stages of Cubs fan free agent grief, right? The 7 stages of grief. But to me, this is what I notice when I go on social media. Number 1 is shock, right? You get that initial tweet, whether it's Heyman, whether it's Rosenthal, Romero, whoever you go with, you get that tweet that hey, he's going here, he's going there, and everyone's just kind of in shock. Step 2, right, of the grief process for Cubs free agent, anger at management. Whether it's Jed Hoyer or Tom Ricketts, I see it all over. Jed can't play with the big boys. Tom Ricketts is cheap. All of this absolute anger. Okay, that's the second stage I notice. Number 3, lashing out at other Cub fans, right? Cub fans that may try to be like kind of, talking through it, trying to make sense of it. I get people, Dustin, that get mad at me for being a season ticket holder or mad at me for going to CubsCon. They feel
saying
that
you're helping line the pockets of the Ricketts, and they're not reciprocating it with a better product on the field. Correct?
Correct. If it wasn't for people like me who spend money on the Cubs, then Ricketts would be forced to spend because nobody would go to Wrigley Field. And that's
I'm sorry,
Marvel's
but
over on the south side.
Right. It's just laughable, right? It's a laughable way to approach it. I mean, it would take much more than just Crawly not going to Cubs games.
Just
no offense. I know you spend a good buck on the Cubs, but it would take more than Crawly.
Right. And even then it just doesn't make sense. Like, why are you, the more playoff games they make. I was there, and you were too, Dustin, throughout the entire postseason run this year and even back before, when in that golden age of 15, 16, 17, the amount of money they made hand over fist of people coming, long postseason runs, people filling up the bars. I mean, you make more money if you have better seasons.
Right. And again, I think that is the argument that they got. How many extra home games did they end up getting?
They ended up getting 5 extra
home games, right? So it's like, okay, where did that money go? Right. Where did that money go? So
I don't know. Stage number 4 is the sour grapes, right? Imai is too small. He's never thrown a pitch in MLB. He struggles against lefties. Y'all wanted him until you didn't get him, right?
Yeah, so, I think I probably fall into that category sometimes.
Yeah, and then there's the pivoting, right? I never wanted Imai. I really wanted Zach Gallen. I'm good with it. I'm good with it, right? And then finally, depression and no hope, where it feels like the Cubs are going to sign nobody. I get that. I get the million of tweets. Just why do you think the Cubs are going to get somebody? The Cubs are going to get somebody.
I'm not there.
Let's not be ridiculous.
I'm not there yet. I mean, Ken Rosenthal today said he expects a big splash ahead of CubsCon, Crawly.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And what I always try to warn people about is that, moves don't get made because of CubsCon. I just went on the website for Cubs convention. Now is the time where they're getting ready this week to start doing the reveals, right?
Yeah, news will start trickling out, right? Like who else is coming from the 2016 team, right? That's
right.
We want to know, right? We want to know.
But the hotel packages are already sold out. Right. So
you can't sell anymore. There's not like a walk up even, right? There's no
there's tickets that you can buy, weekend passes, but the hotel packages are sold out. I think this is going to be a lot more about nostalgia. And we're going to talk about 2016 and CubsCon in segment 3, but I'm not, and that's not to say that we shouldn't be excited about the team, but this is a 10-year anniversary of one of the most amazing team in Cubs history. And so that is, that it was selling whether they got a free agent or not. Jed doesn't make moves based on Cubs convention. You want to, I'm sure Tom and Crane would be absolutely thrilled. But again, why does Scott Boras care if they're Cubs con? He doesn't care. If you don't give him what he wants, they're not going to sign. And they're not going to spend over just to get a marquee name at CubsCon. That's not going to happen. Jed's not going to sit there and say, well, I better spend more than I wanted to or that I'm comfortable with because I won't have a big name. He's not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. Now, again, let's see what happens right now. The Cubs did make a couple moves, Dustin, while we were on our little break there. The Cubs signed right-handed reliever Jacob Webb to a one-year deal. You could see him here in the Rangers uniform. He is going to be, it's a $1.5 million deal with the team option for a second season that could make the contract worth $2.5 million plus incentives. He had a 3 ERA across 55 appearances, 66 innings with the Rangers last season. He's got a 2.99 career ERA across 6 MLB seasons, split with the Braves, Angels, Orioles, and Rangers. He won a World Series with Atlanta in 2021, so nice to have a guy with some postseason experience. He's got a fastball, Dustin, that breaks 90 miles per hour. That's exciting, right?
Woo-hoo.
93 mile per hour fastball, a changeup that he uses more against lefties, and a sweeper that he uses against righties. He's not a strikeout pitcher. He's just a guy that initiates a lot of soft contact. So with the Cubs defense, the way it is,
they love that kind of they love that kind of thing, right? That's what they're known for. That's what they stand for at this point, right?
Right.
Soft
and then
contact, let that defense play it behind you, all that kind of jazz.
You got the Gold Glovers. The other move that you got, another reliever, surprise, surprise, Hunter Harvey. Hunter Harvey. Now, maybe you haven't heard of Hunter Harvey. He didn't play much last season. He signed a 1-year, $6 million deal, and he can earn an additional $1.5 million in incentives. Good news, Dustin, he throws heat. How about that? A fastball that averages 96 to 97 miles per hour, a splitter, a slider, a curve. He's got it all. The bad news, he is injury prone. He made 12 appearances out of the Royals bullpen in 2025. He had a teres major strain in early April that kept him out of action until late July. He pitched in 6 more games before being sidelined for the rest of the season by a grade 2 strain. He is a fantastic pitcher when healthy. Unfortunately, he isn't healthy much. I mean, literally, if we did all the injuries, it would be one of those Star Wars scrolling crawls. It's 2014 elbow inflammation shut down, 2015 fractured leg, elbow soreness, 2016 groin injury followed by Tommy John, 2018 shoulder soreness, 2020 forearm strain, 2024 season-ending back injury. He got traded to the Royals from Washington, and he's only played like a total of 12 games in the 1.5 seasons they had him since the trade deadline 2024. And then everything we talked about, the teres major, the shoulder strain in April, followed by a grade 2 abductor strain in August. So this is a guy that cannot stay healthy. He reminds me a lot of Julian Merriweather, right?
Okay.
Where you're talking about a guy with heat that has a high pedigree, but they just can't ever stay healthy enough. And then, he's going to, they get injured, they come back. Maybe they're not what you expect. So this guy hasn't really pitched much since, July.
So he's got low
August
tread
2024
on him, right? He's got low tread on him.
He, again, blue chip prospect for Baltimore. Baltimore does a great job doing it. But has not played in a while. So let's see what he has. But again, this could be one of those moves that could really, help the Cubs. Remember Merriweather, his first year was phenomenal.
Oh, it's great. Absolutely great. Spot on. He was very good the first time around.
And then he got injured, and then he never really kind of was able to get back in the rhythm of things. This is a very similar type thing. So we'll see what happened. But Dustin, if we look at the offseason so far, and this is from my guy, Chief Cub, great follow on Twitter right here. This is the Cubs offseason summary. You're talking about selling tickets for CubsCon. Kidridge was traded to Baltimore for money. Colin Ray, 1 year, is coming back. Shodi Managa took the qualifying offer. Phil Madden, a reliever, 2-year deal. Scott Kingery, you remember that guy? Infield, outfielder, minor league deal. So just kind of a bench piece. They traded Nico Zeglin to Houston for money. Colin Snyder, a right-handed pitcher, to a minor league deal. Hobie Milner, right, former Brewer, left-handed pitcher. Caleb Thielbar's back.
Again,
Tyler Austin.
That's a skipper hire, right? That he wanted that guy.
Right. Tyler Austin is a first baseman, 1-year deal. Christian Bethancourt is taking the role, the guy that's going to be in the minor leagues. And then if someone gets injured, he comes up. Jacob Webb, we just talked about, and Hunter Harvey. So take a look at all these deals. The only deal that's longer than a year, Dustin, is Phil Matten, who has the 2-year deal.
All right.
Now, a couple guys.
What does that tell you, Crawly?
Dustin, I don't know who's going to be on this team in 2027.
Well, are they worried about having baseball in 2027, right? I mean, is that what they're telling me?
That's the way at least that's the way the Cubs are looking at it. I don't know about other teams.
Read it. Right. That's the way I read that. Right.
The Cubs move. And you talked about a little bit about Ken Rosenthal, and here's what they had to say about the Cubs offseason so far coming into the new year, right? Their fan base is waiting and waiting and waiting. And we can speak from experience. The Cubs have spent slightly more than $30 million on 5 free agent relievers and brought first baseman Tyler Austin back from Japan for $1.25 million. But like you said, if they want to avoid a fan uprising at the Cubs convention, January 16th to 18th, at least one splash is necessary. But Dustin, I don't know if it's going to happen.
We will see, Crawly. We will see. I'm still in the position of letting them, the job is not done yet, right? The job is not done yet at this point. We have to wait and see what's going to happen exactly. So I'm willing to give them a little bit of rope, if you will. You're listening to the Fly the W podcast. We are part of the Blue Wire Network. It is season 4. It's episode 7. Bye Imai. And don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. 5-star reviews. We'll take them. You can even email us. Crawly's Clubhouse, gmail.com. Don't forget to watch us on Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. Some of you are right now, even though the Cubs have not made that big splash, Crawly. There are plenty of premier free agents left on the board. And in this segment, Crawly, you're talking to USA Today MLB writer Bigfoot Bob Nightingale about the reasons the free agent market is moving as slowly as it is so far. This is episode 70, season number 4 of the Fly the W podcast. We're proud to be part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe. 5-star reviews, we'll take them. You can email us, Crawly's Clubhouse at gmail.com. Don't forget you can watch us on the Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. It's time to look at some of the news coming out from around baseball, not exactly connected to the Cubs, Crawly.
Yeah, some of we got some moves going on, some hot stove. How about the Toronto Blue Jays? Oh my God. Kasuma Okamoto. Okamoto's a first baseman, third baseman, kind of a really solid utility. I don't want to say utility guy, but he signed a 4-year, $60 million deal with the Blue Jays with a $5 million signing bonus. I mean, talk about pushing your chips, and Jesus, Toronto.
Oh,
unbelievable.
Yeah. Their fan base had a good Christmas, right? Their fan base had a nice Christmas. Yeah.
Cub fans got cold, but
they were what? They were a couple outs away from, beating the dreaded Yankee or the dreaded Dodgers.
Yeah, I really wanted them to win. But if you look at Okamoto, you look at Imai, we talked about him in segment 1 going to Houston. And then, the Japanese slugger, Munetaka Murakawa, he's joining the White Sox. He's going to the South Side on a 2-year, $34 million deal. But if you look at Murakami, if you look at Imai, if you're looking at, Okamoto, their deals are very undervalued. And I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Like, the Athletic is pretty good at what they do. I think some of the best writers in the business, and what these Japanese players are getting is not very much. I'm very surprised at how the Japanese market has shaked out. And we've seen some premier free agents, Dylan Cease and a couple others, Kyle Schwarber, off the board, but we haven't seen there's a lot of guys still left, but we don't see what those contracts look like. And I don't understand why these Japanese contracts have been so underwhelming.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know if part of it is, this work stoppage, what's going to happen. It's just, we don't know. Maybe that's part of it. And maybe that's part of why it's so slow.
Right. And I'm looking here like December 30th, the Angels got Kirby Yates, right? They're a veteran reliever, but it's a 1-year deal. The Orioles re-signed Zach Eflin, 1-year deal. So a lot of these deals, the one big one that happened since we've been gone, left fielder Tyler Soderstrom and the Athletics. I don't know if they're the Vegas Athletics or what they're called. Do you hear about this?
Yeah.
They didn't file for the name.
What exactly are they, right? Mm-hmm.
We don't even know. They didn't file for the name for the Las Vegas Athletics, and so they made that name that has so much history behind it might be gone.
I would be shocked if that actually happened. But you're right; it is a thing at the moment.
Soderstrom and the Athletics, 7 years, $86 million contract. I mean, that's not breaking the bank, you know what I mean? But a lot of these are like 1-year, 2-year deals. Ryan O'Hearn, first baseman's going to the Pirates, 2-year, $29 million. But I'm just, we're not seeing a lot of, long-term deals as far as that's going. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we'll kind of see what happens there. But we talked a little bit in segment one.
Let's back it up for 1 second, right? Pretty safe to say that the right fielder's not coming back, right? He's not coming back here, right? I mean, that would knock your socks off, right? That would be like,
yes.
Wait, what? So is Bellinger coming?
I think the Bellinger is going to be with the Yankees, is my opinion.
Where's Bregman going?
That one's tougher. If I still feel like the Cubs have a good beat on that.
Now, why is it out there that I don't remember this, and maybe
Boston?
I missed it? No. But like the last time around, he never wanted to come here. You remember that?
I was
seeing that he never wanted to come here, and then like Chicago was just like a ploy to run up the price tag maybe.
You never know with these guys. I mean, there's a lot of rumors that go spreading around. I have no idea why they didn't do it. I have a feeling that if Jed would have pushed harder, maybe he would have. I don't know. To me, like I said, that's the move that'll always chip my hide as far as Bregman goes, that they didn't make a deal on that. But, because you knew he was going to opt out, right? You knew he was going to opt out. And so who cares if you give him I wouldn't say ridiculous deal, but you could have kind of tried to go over and at least try to drive up the price on Boston and see what happens. Yep. But to me, Bregman was going to be opting out. He wanted a long-term big year deal that wasn't out there last year. So why not try to go a little bit more than Boston just to say, hey, we want you. We value you. This is what we're planning on doing. You're going to be with your teammate, Kyle Tucker, all that stuff. But I don't really have, I wish I had a good answer, Dustin. I wish I could tell you why they did what they did, but I don't think there's very few guys. Now I know that Vladdy Jr. would never play in New York, and there's other guys who have certain places. I don't think there's any legitimate reason why Alex Bregman wouldn't come here. It just didn't. So, we'll see what happens.
So you believe that door is open still?
I do. I think that or Eugenio Suarez is going to be that big splash that Kenny Rosenthal's talking about. I think out of that, I've heard Bo Bichette, and I wouldn't be disappointed with Bo Bichette.
So what do you do then? So you bring in Bo Bichette. How do you line things up?
The thing about Bo Bichette that's tricky is he wants to play second base, and even there, he's good. Would I say he's not what the Cubs have now? Good. No, Matt Shaw.
He's not Nico good at second.
He's definitely not Nico good. Nico's definitely a better defender. Obviously, Dansby's defense speaks for itself, and Matt Shaw was shockingly good at third base last year for a rookie. Yep. But again, Bichette, as far as what he can do and what he offers to you as far as offensively, is something that the Cubs, I want to say you were kind of trying to hopefully that you were going to get that from Kyle Tucker, and you did while he was healthy, is a guy that pretty much can put the ball in play. Bichette's the only player to hit 300 versus fastball, breaking balls, and changeup and splits. So he hits 300 pretty much against everything, which is what you saw from Kyle Tucker when he was healthy. And unfortunately, he didn't get healthy in the second half. So I just wish we could have seen what we would have had there. But I think to me, Bregman and Suarez are the two ones that are, and Zach Gallen are the ones that are going to be those three names are.
So one of those three names are something that you want to see happen.
I would have maybe liked to seen something else. It wasn't my first choice, but out of what's left.
But based on what's left, I mean, that's all. Yeah. point, we can't. What phase of disappointment would you have fit in if you're based on the guys that are left? I guess that's what we'll have to do.
Right. That's just pretty much acceptance, right? We're now in the acceptance stage. I'm not completely
okay.
I'm pivoting. I'm pivoting is what I'm doing. I'm pivoting to try to find something else and trying to find some kernel of happiness. And hey, at least if they get Eugenio Suarez, I get to hear Pat Hughes say his name 162 times a year. That's something.
That's a very good point, Crawly. All right. So with that being said, we're talking about a splash. We do know some of the people that are going to be at CubsCon, and one of those, a little bit surprising, but Joe Madden was on with our guy Bruce Levine on Inside the Clubhouse, and Joe said he'll be at the Sheridan, I guess, right? For CubsCon.
Yeah, he'll be at the Sheridan. What a shock! How exciting is this? It
would have been wrong though if he wasn't there. While I am surprised he's there, I think it would have been terrible if he wasn't there.
Right, but again, maybe David Ross shows up. Who knows? But you're literally there with the guy that fired you, and we're going to play some clips. But he clearly didn't want to get fired from that job.
Oh no!
So last time we talked about the excitement of Lester and Rizzo and Fowler and Montero and Zobrist and Stropey and Kyle Hendricks. His first time back since retiring, and just the excitement. But we said no way, David Ross, no way, Joe Madden, and boy, we couldn't have been more wrong as Joe Madden, like you said. But I mean, Dustin, how awkward is that? I mean, Joe is a professional, right? Joe's a professional. Joe. The fact I'm more surprised that he hasn't gotten a job full time in the media than I am.
He must not. I mean, I got to think that he must not want it. I mean, because why is he like kind of sort of doing MLB Network, but not really?
Right? Kind of just like dipping his toe, but
right. He kind of,
it's been a while.
Kind of a regular,
it's been a while for Joe.
Kind of a regular on there, but not all the time.
Well, here is what Joe Madden had to say about Cubs convention.
Thought about so many different things, but primarily it really revolves around the city itself and the fans and the people there. That's really the main reason I want to come back. And of course the players will be there and the guys that you work with. That's the other carrot right there. But primarily, I learned very quickly what Chicago was all about. And I learned even more quickly what the Cubs fans were all about. And even from the beginning, the whole point was to do what we did. There's no other reason to show up. I know it hadn't happened in a while. You just went over that, but I really had a strong feeling that we could do it. And we did, obviously. So this is one of those things. You always have to celebrate achievement, even if it's 10 years later. They always put like these decade decisions on regarding when we're going to celebrate, but it's going to be cool. And it's like I said, primarily getting back with the group itself. And then I don't even know if it's more importantly or not. I think our guys would say the same thing for the people of Chicago and the Cubs fan base.
Now, let me say two things. Number one,
he said all the right things, in my opinion.
Number one, I'm happy that the Cubs went out and got Craig Counsell. I will say it. I will stick to it. I have nothing wrong with it. But
I'm still in a holding pattern on that.
But God, is it great to hear Joe? I mean, when you and I listened to hours of
breath of fresh air. Now, again, I think the managers have to talk way too much. That before the game, sometimes during the game, after the game. I think they talk too much. There's too much on that skipper's plate. But
but having to listen to hours and every season, I can't even tell you how many hours of Craig Counsell post-game interviews I listen to. Oh my God, the guy's about as exciting as watching paint dry. What needs to happen, Craig? Well, we need to score more runs.
Yeah. Thanks, Captain Obvious, right? Yeah.
Wow. And so, I'm sitting here just listening to Joe and it just remembering that, like, it just gets me so excited to hear him coming back. And I remember, that first year he came, I forget which minor league team, they actually had glasses so we could all wear the glasses. And there's the Cubby Bear shirt that had the white beard and the white hair on the bear. We were so excited. It was so much fun. That was the year they got John Lester, and oh my God, we just knew it was going to happen. And then the next year, the Try Not to Suck shirts, and the guy was just so much fun. And again, when you think about it, 3 trips to the NLCS, the last series before the World Series in 3 straight years. I mean, I never could have even imagined it. The fact that I got to go to, we got to witness a World Series win, and it does. I will say it. I will scream it from the top of the mountains till the day I die. The Cubs won because of, not in spite of Joe Madden. I don't care any of this revisionist bullcrap history. Oh, he did this, he did that. No, without Joe Madden, the Cubs do not win the World Series. And
I agree with you.
You want to talk about a statue that needs to be built? I would have a statue of Joe, or at least Theo, one of the two. I mean, I think you needed both. I think you needed both of those guys to get it done. But to me, Joe Madden is
well. How many 2016 statues are you going to have then?
I don't think they're going to do one for Joe. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, I mean, do you think there's just like a moment? Like, do you think it's like a big one, like a moment of it, or how do you?
I still think it's the four infielders jumping together. I think it's that Rizzo by as Russell and Bryant to me is the way. But I'm sure when the statue gets built, we'll have Lucella on talking about it because he always does such awesome statues.
He does do a nice job.
Dustin, to me, I sit here and I take a look at this and, I never thought that the guy who won the World Series for the Cubs, 3 NLCS appearances, would get run out of town as quickly as he did. And here's Joe talking about
the door. Yeah, pushed out the door.
Did win.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We did win and we're still gone. That's just the way of the world at that point. I really wish we had stayed longer. I wanted to stay longer. I thought at least 3 more years would have been quite interesting. And keeping that group together, I know a lot of the money involvement, the fact that a lot of these guys are young and going to be due some more bucks to stick around, that kind of thing. So that absolutely played part of the decision. But as a group, I thought we really complemented our strengths and weaknesses well together. And I think we could have called something out. Maybe not another World Series title. That's really hard to do, but definitely made some decent playoff runs. I really wish we had gotten at least 3 more.
3 more years. That would have cost a lot of money. I think that was part of it.
The thing that surprised me is the 3 years thing. If he would have said, I wish I would have been, because what I was looking at more than anything is we knew the deadline for making decisions, right? And that was the end of 2021. So I thought for sure Joe was going to be around for 2020 and 2021. You know what I mean? And they would have to make decisions, but definitely I thought they were going to keep the core together for 2020, which they did for the most part. Schwarber was let go and stuff like that. Was allowed to walk out the door, but right. But 2021, that was that moment that, you had to make a decision on what the direction of the team was. Like you said, every one of those guys was going to be owed a big paycheck. A lot of those guys, especially Bryant and Baez, got some pretty good cheddar. And Joe was a high-paid manager that kind of did things his own way. Now, I know what you were saying because I was listening this morning to Mully and Haw, as I always do every morning, and I was listening to the Pick Six and all that stuff. And you said he didn't like the analytics. And I do want to say, because I've talked to Joe specifically about this, he does like analytics. He doesn't like people telling him how to interpret analytics.
I agree. I think that's what I meant to say. If I didn't say it,
right.
I think he sees value of it, but he didn't like the fact that they were telling him how to construct his lineup.
Because Joe will talk to you about it. He is the first person that really would go to the people in Tampa and be like, give me this info, give me that info. And then he says he likes to get all the info and go get a cup of coffee and look it over. And that is sometimes it does impact his decisions. But more than anything, Dustin, is that Joe is a guy that truly believes in what I thought Theo believed, was that there's a balance between the analytics and the players. Now, I am of that mindset, similar to Joe Madden, that you need that data. That data is important. But at the same time, these aren't robots playing the game. These are human beings. And you don't know if they had a bad night last night with the wife. You don't know if all of a sudden they're just kind of losing confidence when you look them in the eye. These are type of things, Dustin, that I think are important. And it's not just if it was just that easy, push by number, you or I could do it, Joe. Dustin, right. we would do it a lot cheaper than Craig Counsell would.
There's a big people person aspect of this job, no doubt about it.
Right. And so I miss Joe, and I value what he has to say a lot. I know he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. He rubbed some people the wrong way, and that's fine. But that's what I believe. That's what I continue to believe. We'll see what happens. But let's hear what Joe does have to say about that lockout that we talked about, Dustin, that possible looming lockout.
Zero insight except what I'm reading. And, the fact of the lack of movement with free agents also indicates that it's pointing in that direction. I think everybody's being very conservative right now because they don't know. We don't know. I'd be surprised if there wasn't some kind of a stoppage somehow. And that this did. I mean, the 11th hour is still the most powerful hour there is in any negotiation. I don't care if it's a bid you put on a house at some point or a Major League Baseball player in the CBA, whatever. The 11th hour has to occur before you really understand or realize what may occur. So if I had a bet, I'd bet, like I said, that it doesn't get resolved in time and something does occur. I think that's what you're seeing regarding the lack of real movement during the course of this off season. Everybody's working off the same sheet of music. It's not there's not real any outliers. Maybe the Dodgers a little bit based on what they've built and the money that they've gotten. The Mets have tried to be an outlier. They haven't arrived there yet. So there's a couple of that. The Yankees, but for the most part, I think everybody's working off the same sheet of music again, where they're going to wait, see how this plays out, and then you're going to see something more dramatic occur. Because I don't think any of these players are going to settle for anything less than that, just based on the fact that the CBA is going to occur.
Just the same sheet of music. Just brilliant, this guy.
Great line. Great line.
As I don't know, I'm not the programming director at the Score or nothing, but like there are just guys. Like I think about how Dave Wanstedt is on all the shows now on 670 The Score and on TV and everything. He's just hilarious. You love how he breaks it down. I'm in the same boat as Joe Madden. Like if he's on every single show in the Score, I'm tuning in whenever Joe Madden's popping on because he's just so brilliant on how he looks at things. But I think, like, again, we are looking at the same sheet of music. We've talked about it, Dustin, before that clip came out. We'll talk about it as we kind of watch it. And he's right. The 11th hour, as things get noticed, everybody's kind of, in kind of one of those standoffs, where everyone's pointing a gun at each other. Is somebody going to blink? Is somebody going to jump? And that's the question I think that we kind of take a look at. So hopefully, I mean, like I said, I think if there is any session at CubsCon and, we know what sessions there's going to be. There's going to be, boy, can you imagine though, Craig Counsell? I mean, that's why they're not going to let Joe speak that much. You know what I mean? He's going to be, I'm sure, in a big group, but listening to Craig Counsell for 45 to an hour versus listening even Joe 15 minutes. I mean, the 2016 World Series team reunion, that session is going to be packed. You're not even going to be able to move. It's going to be so crowded.
There might be a line for it already, Crawly.
Now, one thing there's going to be a line for, and everybody better be aware of this. There's going to be a meet and greet with Anthony Rizzo, but I don't have the newest graphic. It is sold out.
How did that work? How did that work exactly?
So this happens sometimes. They do these kind of things on their own. It's with the Anthony Rizzo Foundation, which everybody knows works to help with pediatric cancer. Mm-hmm. And so on 2/15 on January 17th, if you would have bought this for $250, you could have gotten one picture taken, $300 a picture and one baseball signed, and for $400 one picture and a jersey signed. And so that is sold out, Dustin. And then so that money will go to pediatric cancer. That's going to be at $215 at the Lowe's. The Lowe's is
which one did you buy?
I did not. I got everything at Chicago Sport. I knew this was going to happen. I knew the prices were going to be nuts. I knew, and again, it's for a good cause. I'm not doing that. But, for a guy like me that has more, like if you're just like, oh, I just want to get something signed by Rizzo, this is great. But for me, where I have specific things like photos and stuff like that, it wouldn't have worked for what I was looking for. I already have Anthony Rizzo baseballs. I already have Anthony Rizzo photos with him, so I got all that stuff. Right. It doesn't do anything for me. So that is sold out already. So again, we are now about a week from now, I will be getting ready, starting to pack my bags for CubsCon. So we're getting there, Dustin. It's getting close.
You're really packed for that, Crawly? I don't remember even seeing you change your clothes.
Oh yeah, I pack. I got sweat different. I got different. I do have. I change. I have a couple Fly the W
different
shirts.
Hoodies and jerseys.
Got a couple the jersey stays the same, but everything else, got to change underwear, socks. I got to get food, autograph stuff. Dustin takes a while. You got to get that stuff laid out ready.
Now,
So
how
that-
are the other? So how are the other autographs working that are like organized anyway?
I mean, they've changed it in the last year or two.
I mean,
It
at
used
one
to
point,
be-
you got the ticket, and you would get in the line. That gone.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. So
Okay.
it's just kind of you stand in line and you hope you get who you get. I don't know if they're going to go back to the scratch off. I always liked it. I did not like the other way. But I think they kind of didn't like the black market that would occur around that, where people would be like trying to buy the good ones for big money. But hey, if you wanted to make the money or if you wanted to do the player, at least you had an option. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, I don't want to sit in a line for 3 hours and then all of a sudden, Anthony Rizzo gets up and then, Mickey Morandini sits down. I mean, that doesn't do anything for me, so
no offense to Mickey Morandini.
No offense to Mickey Morandini, but you can tell that the buzz is already coming around CubsCon, even without that big splash with Joe Madden, with Rizzo doing this autograph signing for his foundation. It is going to be wild, Dustin. And so we're going to have plenty to talk about when we get together next week, as far as Cub Convention, all the different panels, all the different excitement. It is always my favorite time of year.
Yeah, very, very cool. Something to look forward to. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Email us your thoughts or questions, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And you can watch us by subscribing to the Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube channel. All right, since you're going down next week, we'll probably have to do this about this time next week unless something happens sooner, right?
Yep, 100%. And I want to thank everybody that was watching. Our guy Steve in Arizona. Brian, I talked to you about, he's in his 28th season with the Cubs. So he is a veteran over there. We got Larry, who is watching, Tim Green, who is wondering about the pitching that I think we talked a little bit about. And then, of course, my guy, Bill Watts, Fly the Wood Designs. I don't know if you know this. I got to send you this, Dustin, but he has this exclusive deal for one of those lighted signs that I have back behind me, but it's an Andre Dawson silhouette with the number 8 that Andre Dawson absolutely tattooed with his beautiful, there's, I think, like 6 inscriptions on there. So I'm going to have to send it to you because it is a beauty. There's not many of them, but for those of you, and I know you're a big Andre Dawson fan, I would definitely be look at Fly the Wood.
That's pretty cool. Thank you for the heads up. That's something. Maybe we should have him on.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have him on. He's a great guy, and his work is unbelievable.
All right, Crawley, take care. We'll talk soon.
Yep, and absolutely get ready for CubsCon news on the socials. Hopefully, we're going to have even more fun, and get ready because next week is going to be wild. Go Cubs!
It's all over.